Hey, can you guys hear me? Okay, there it goes. I don't know. Having some issues with the audio. Looks like we got it working. So just give me an audio check. We'll jump into it. We're going to look at whatever charts you guys want me to look at. I'll start off with, well, the broad markets. We can, and Triple Qs is pretty much the broad market, like nothing else really matters besides mega cap tech stocks, Nvidia, and whatnot. So, and yeah, we'll just go into that. Super quiet. All right, let me zoom it in a little bit, see if that actually works. Sorry, I'm just having some issues with the microphone this morning, and I don't know why, but let's see if that works. Is that better? Sometimes the program that I use to do the live stream switches between my webcam mic, and then I have one of these bigger Yeti mics that seems to work better. So, all right. I'm gonna just go. If the audio sounds horrible, let me know. I'll change it as I'm going along. Okay, triple Qs, guys. So bigger picture, still too quiet. Come on, guys. Let me see what I can do. Oh, I got the gain all the way up. Okay, well, how's that? How's the audio? To me, it looks like it's okay when I'm looking at it. Let me turn that up. That might help. All right. See if that actually works. Okay. So let's get into the triple Qs. All right. Bigger picture is we've got we got this bearish engulfing candle that took place on Thursday, basically right there. And you can see that basically, all right, so it's a pretty simple trade at this point. We're just going to treat that as the top, and and that's it. That's the top. Treat it as the top. If it's not the top, you get a daily close above. All right, you start closing daily candles above. It's not the top. We stop out. So if you're shorting this market, then if you're shorting the market, then that to me would be the stop. Don't get locked into a trade. If you're shorting it and it doesn't start work, it's not working, especially when you're trying to pick a top or when you're looking for a topping pattern, which is what we're doing, because obviously we've got big negative divergence. Each new high, this has been extending. All right, divergent high. There's another one, divergent high. It's been extending. So this is a divergent high. It doesn't have to remain a divergent high, but that's what it is right now. And when you have a divergent high, you start looking for signs of a top, such as topping sticks, outside days, bearish engulfing candles like we got on Thursday. So that we're just putting the evidence together, and in general, that is going to be, I'm treating that as the top, and then they might run it up and close it kind of on that trend line right there. I can see them they might pop it intraday, okay? But what I'd look for is if they're popping it intraday, how does it close? All right, if it closes back below resistance or right on it, then again, it's just giving us a sign that, okay, that's probably going to be a top. And that's it. A daily close above, we stop out, we look, and that trade's not really working. I mean, there's not a lot of risk. If you're taking a trade, if you're shorting that, let's say you that bearish engulfing, let's say you shorted the very bottom of it because you waited for the end of the day and you said, okay, that looks good, I'll short it here. All right, you're underwater slightly by, one day by what, nine, almost 1%. But if you're only talking about maybe a roughly 2% loss if they start getting, closes above that former high. Maybe you got a 2% loss. So again, position sizing, have the appropriate position where you can afford a 2% loss and it's not going to make an impact. And then if it works, you've got lots of support below, but let's just say we go down to the first level of support. You're going to have, That's 1.5% to the downside. That wouldn't really be the trade though, because this is a daily candle. All right, we're looking at daily charts, daily big negative divergence. All right, on a daily chart, you're not looking just for a little tiny pullback and that's all there is. When you get a topping pattern, typically you're going to look for, a sizable move down. And I think down to the 200-day moving average would be the move, all right? And it's down here. It's moving up, so by the time it gets there, maybe it's going to be around this 413.55 area, because it's pointed up. But again, that would be a potential gain of 8% or so. So we're talking about a roughly 4-to-1 risk-reward ratio on a trade setup there, which is favorable. So that's the trade. There's really not much to go through beyond that. The big culprit is obviously Nvidia. What I noticed, which was kind of interesting, is on Thursday they were buying Nvidia, but they were selling all the other Mag 7s. So all the other ones were down. They were taking profit on that and buying Nvidia. Nvidia, I don't really have a top here. I can't call this. It did look like a doji intraday, but how it closed on Thursday, that doesn't really look like a topping stick to me. So I wouldn't be treating it as such. And so I'm not shorting Nvidia. I don't see enough there to short it. All right. I just don't see enough. But, at the end of the day, we do seem to have kind of a narrowing of breadth where, right now it's just Nvidia, but we'll keep an eye on it. All right, so that's that. Nvidia, there's not much to go over. We'll see how next week plays out. Apple, somebody wanted me to cover Apple, so I will just do that real quick while we're here. Again, I don't see enough to say that this one's shortable. In general, there's support. I had some support right here at about 187.37. Looks like I could maybe move that down just slightly, right about there. That lines up. It's about 187-ish. Held that support and bounced on Friday. So, yeah, it does not look... Nothing really looks too bad here in the short term on Apple. You've got a potential uptrend line there. You've got support. You've got resistance way up here at 198. I don't see enough here to tell me that I want to short it. So it could easily go up to that 198. Now it'd be more of a short up here if we had, it's more objective to short at that major resistance level. All right. So I don't see anything else in Apple really. And then the rest, Meta still has this, this island cluster top right here. It's still there. And look, when you get these island clusters, a lot of the time they'll rally it back kind of into that, run a bunch of stops on people that took that initial gap down, and then they'll reverse it. So this isn't anything out of the norm. And I wouldn't expect this to continue to go much higher. I mean, I could see it going up to about 498.30, maybe chop into there a little bit. But in general, I don't see it going much beyond that. You don't really want to see it up in like the top of the... If you get up here towards the top of that island, then, it just really negates the island cluster top. All right. And especially a daily close above. A daily close above would completely negate the island cluster top and would indicate that that wasn't the top. But as of right now, this has been the top. This island cluster, it is the top. We treat it as the top until proven wrong. Maybe a little more upside until they reverse this thing. All right, so that is that one. And yeah, that's, unless you guys want me to go through any other Mag 7s, I can move on. So I'll just start going through your guys' stuff. We'll start off with these super chats. Appreciate it, guys. KP Travel Journey. Yeah, you're welcome. Doesn't look like you have any one you want me to cover. So I don't know what's SGD. What is that? That's a currency. I don't know what it is, but appreciate it. And then Kyle, you got 10 bucks. You want me to look at Johnson & Johnson? You want me to, let's see, 144, 138. Okay, so you want to go long J&J. I would anticipate, a lot of the time I would think the dividend is probably what's enticing you. Let me look. 3%. Um, so, well, let's take a look and see what we got. Because I was looking at not Merck, but Bristol Myers Squibb. I was kind of looking at that on Friday. I could maybe look at that one too. All right, so here's J&J. Interesting. One thing I'm seeing, and this is bigger picture stuff, but this does, and I just kind of noticed it, does look like a rounding top. Okay. See that pattern right there? That looks like a rounding top. It's been in play for many years, but, it's a big pattern. Rounding tops are, you look for them at the end of extended uptrends, and they're typically distribution patterns. Kind of like gold. I could show you gold. It had a rounding bottom, but just to give you an example, but that looks like a rounding top to me. Okay. And then if I roll out, you have to go to the weekly chart probably. So yeah, I mean, to me, look, this has been a bull trend since 2009 on the weekly. You got, let's see how kind of reactions we got. That's the low of 2009. There's another one. That's what, 2019. I don't know what that was. Something. There's COVID. COVID, you kind of have to throw out as an outlier. It was very impulsive price action. That looks like another one. And then I can almost extend this out. Maybe, I don't know, get something like there. Yeah, call that another one. We're at a weekly chart. And then, look, back test. Okay, they popped it 1 week or a couple weeks here, but it has failed, and no real divergences. I'd have to look at the daily on this price action right in here, see if we had some negative divergences. Let me look at that. Oh, where's my daily? I collapsed it. Yeah, you had some negative divergences right here. They popped it here, and divergence right there. That was a divergent high. So ultimately that failed. So I don't know. Long-term accumulation, I don't know if I like it, to be honest. Just given, look, I don't know if I'd want to accumulate. This is a bull trend that to me is broken. All right. And you're making lower highs and lower lows. All right. On the weekly, I'm on the weekly again. Lower high, lower high, lower high, lower low, lower low. I think you're about to make a lower low. This is downtrending. So for a long-term accumulation, I don't know if I want to buy something in a downtrend. I want to buy something in an uptrend at support. When, I want to buy it on when it shows that it's turning or made a turn essentially, and I want to buy it at support and be in early. I want to be in early buying at support on a trade that's about to go into a long-term bull trend. That's where I want to do a long-term accumulation. To me, this is a rounding top. That's distribution. So that's kind of the opposite maybe of what you'd want to do for a long-term play. Long-term play, you want to be buying, early in a bull trend. Just my thoughts on it. All right. And what, 144, 138? Yeah, you're making lower highs and you're making lower lows. I don't think that 144, 138, 138 holds. That might be a short-term play. I can see 138 here. I see some support right there around 138. Okay. So I see where you're getting your numbers roughly. That might be a short-term play, but I don't think that's a long-term buy and hold. I think that is maybe a short-term bounce off that level. Okay. And that, I'm on a weekly chart, but you said long-term, so. All right. So American Airlines. Just give me a second as some of these charts I haven't looked at for a while because we haven't done a live stream for quite a while. I have to go off this high here. Okay. So I'm going to go out. That's going to be my trend line now. So resistance, 3 data points. You need 3 to make a trend. So I have 3 now. Well, I got to tighten it up a little bit. And I don't know. It's really hard. I can't see it here. I mean, I see this. All right, look, this is a divergent high right here. So there you have a high, there you have a higher high. There's your momentum dropping off. They sold into that divergence. You're kind of working your way lower, but I could easily, it's at the 200. They could pop it up into that major resistance. All right. Right now you're at support. You're at the 200-day moving average. That's support. So until that breaks, it wouldn't be a short for me. And then obviously if they pop it up into that major resistance, I think they could do it. It's hard to say if they could do it right now and still keep that divergence. Maybe they could. I'd want to see if it's right here, if it was right here and we had negative divergence and we're at major resistance, that's where I'd be looking for a short. Down here, I'd probably be looking more for a long, I guess, just because you're at the 200 and, they could rally it up. But I don't see, there's no divergence, There's nothing right now telling me there's divergence that this is going to go one way or the other. So, I don't know. The only thing I'd lay on this for being a long is the fact that it's basically at the 200-day moving average. But as you can see, this thing chops through the 200 like crazy. So I would just pass. That would be my position on it. It's just not a chart that I like. It's not very clean. All right, Ford. All right, take a look at Ford. So it looks like there's some decent long-term support kind of right around this area. It's about 1130 or so. Did dip up below it once. And yeah, I got this as a short-term support shelf. See, there are several reactions here. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that short-term support, it's right at the 200-day as well. So it's about $12. Not too far off of that support right now. And until that breaks, that's support. So I would say you could get a bounce here. Now these are divergent highs. Divergent high, divergent high, divergent high. And each divergent high was sold into. All right. Divergent high, sell into. Divergent high, sell into. Divergent high, sell into. So sooner than later, I think this support gives way. And I'd be on the lookout for that. But you are at support right now, and so you could bounce. I wouldn't short this thing. There's no sell signal. I wouldn't short it until I got a break of that $12. The divergence tells me it's coming. So if you want to play it long, just set your stop slightly below, and you can always flip short if it breaks. But it's at support now. And nothing says it can't just go on to make a new divergent high way up here and put in a new divergent high. That's completely possible. So that's why I don't want to short it until I see a break of support. The only play to really make right here and right around current levels is a long. Okay, Starbucks. I know this one's sold off quite a bit, so we'll see if there's anything there. There's resistance. So this is a resistance level I had marked out from way back here. Looks like it's holding so far. It's about 80.16. There's obviously a gap to fill. So a lot of traders will be eyeing that gap. When you have such a really big obvious gap, if it does start to trade into there, like I like to step in early, and like if you're going to be long, I'd like to sell it before it fills the gap. I wouldn't hold out for the gap fill. It's just too obvious. You always want to lock in your profit before the major selling comes. But I'm not saying it's going to, right here, 80-20, that's resistance. And support, looks like there's some decent support down here at 69-ish. So, I don't see any divergence. So if I had to guess, I'd say it rejects here and heads down to that 69 level. You might put in a divergent low down here. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if you did, then you'd be at longer term support with some bullish divergence. And I could see at that point, and they'll probably try to whip you out a little bit. Whenever we get around key levels, they love the market makers, the algos, they try to run those levels temporarily and take your positions. But then ultimately, I think it holds, and then it could rally and fill that gap. This is way down in the future, so that's what I got on that one. URI and FSLR. I saw FSLR had a big, huge move up. I think it was on earnings or something. Yeah, just some pump. This thing's gone parabolic. But let's see here. Momentum's strong for sure. I mean, look, there's no real divergence here. I mean, you've got this was your bullish divergence right there. Let's see, divergent lows. And it's been rallying. This looks like a blow off top to me, though. Like anytime a stock does this, I mean, if you don't own it already, my opinion would be don't chase that. You're probably going to get wrecked, but it doesn't mean, if you don't have a position, then taking a position up here is likely. You're going to, unless you got perfect timing, because it's going to have big moves down, but it can keep going up. So it's not something I want to short. And I see strong momentum. I see momentum's really strong. Way overbought though. This thing's at like 87. One way you can handle to use the RSI, don't use the 70 and 30. Just look at the stock and say, where does this stock, at what level is this individual stock typically overbought? I see, if you roll back, yeah, this is about as overbought as this, this has only been this overbought a couple times in the history of this stock. And like, here's the last time it was this overbought. Let me look. It was right there. And yeah, you can see it continued to run from that overbought point. So again, the momentum's strong. It is overbought, but there's no divergence. So I would steer clear of shorting this thing. If you're long, you probably just trail your stops is what I would say. Trail them up, let it run, and it's probably the only way to play it. It's at all-time new highs, so who knows where it's going to go. But okay, so that's FSLR, and then URI, that's United Rentals. So there's your negative divergence here. Oh, I pointed this one out in the past. It's so there's your bull trend. It's just topping what this looks like. You got the divergence. It's topped out. It's really gone nowhere for, we've gone nowhere for almost all year, and it's topping. It looks like it's topping to me. So if you're in it, I know it's probably frustrating because it's not going up, it's not going down. Nobody's making money here. It's just topping out. If you want to wait, take out some of these support levels. You obviously got this level down here now. I had this level, but now that we made that low, you probably just go down here and just mark this out like that. So again, I think we're probably going to head down there. If it breaks this level, it should just shoot right down to it'll be right down here because it looks like the 200's headed up. There's a gap to fill. This is where I think this thing's heading. I think you're going to come down to here, maybe get a little bounce, but ultimately just boom, break and just flush just like that, right down to there, 587. And then you'll be at some support, and so you probably bounce there. Longer term trend lines all the way down here as well, actually, so that's interesting. Yeah, this is where actually I think it's heading. I think it's heading to this longer term trend line. So I think it goes like this. You hit here, you little bounce there, you flush here. The 200 will probably be in that range. So you'll battle with that 200 for a little while because the bulls are going to try to hold the 200. And so you probably get a bounce off that 200s and maybe go like this, bounce into resistance. And then I think ultimately you come back down to the 200, battle it out a little bit more, and then it breaks and you flush down to the major trend line. Okay, so that's that one. just speculative because there's no sell signals or anything. All right, what else do we got? SMH. Well, that's our semis, and that's pretty much going to be NVIDIA at this point. So all-time new highs. Could be coming in for a back test, something like that. Keep an eye out for that back test. Look for a rejection candle. The semis are kind of mania right now, so I don't want to short them until I see rejection candles. So what I'd look for is like, if this is going to be a back test, boom, okay, and then look for a big red candle. That'll be your rejection candle. That'll likely be your sign that this thing's going to reject. Also, it'd be helpful to have negative divergence, which we have right now from this former high. There it is. But you'd want to see it remain intact. See the PPO, clear negative divergence. So maybe they come in for a back test and you still have the negative divergence. Then you get the rejection candle. That'd probably be my sell signal on that one. Another way to do it, go down to the hourly. You'll see they'll create these secondary trend lines. Right now I got it like that. So you would, if you really want to be conservative, this is only 2 data points, but they'll probably put in a third. So maybe they come down, boom, bounce. Okay, you get a third data point, and then look for a rejection candle, look for a break of this support, and that would be your sell signal. Okay. Dell, I have not looked at that one for a while. Interesting. This thing has gone parabolic. Is my logs? Yeah, okay. So this thing's gone parabolic. I don't know. Is this an AI thing too going on? Seems like everybody's got AI and everybody's gonna make tons of money from AI. I mean, this is just, it's just, there is money to be made, but it's gonna be split up, and margin shares will come down. This one, I've got a trend line about there on Dell. So there's your trend line. If you can't replicate it, make sure you got log scaling on. Divergent high. Okay. I can't quite make a trend line here. You can, if you really want to hone in your entry, because I think this will be a short, but I don't see a short here, and I don't see a sell signal. But you could maybe try to put together like a little hourly trend line. And then if that breaks, then you come down to that major trend line on the daily. And then if or when that breaks, that would be your major sell signal. So the way to potentially play it is this hourly trend line, which I'm not in love with. I'd like to see another data point, but let's just say it breaks. If it breaks, and you're probably going to get a push down to here, I'd cover a short. If I was shorting from here, I'd cover that short down at that. You could even flip long, maybe get a bounce. Look for signs it's going to reverse or trail your stops, and then come back down to the trend line. Ultimately, look, and then you'd want to be looking for a break of that major trend line for a longer term sell signal. So I don't know, nothing really there on that. I wouldn't. There's no trade there for me. Chewy, okay, bullish divergence. That one's been building for a while. So this was one of those stocks that was like pumped way up during COVID. It got taken out to the woodshed. This is the COVID pump here. And, if you bought into that mania, that hype train, then, it's down, 86% from that. It's been downtrending. So this is the downtrend that I've got going on. Yeah, I like this one here. That's perfect. Because see that little wick candle? It didn't actually get a daily close. So right in there is your major downtrend line. Okay. It's building bullish divergence down here. So I would be looking for a long on this one. That's pretty long extended divergence, very clean and clear. Do something. Let me see here. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. You can see then. All right, so this is the trend line I'd be watching for. And this is actually a pretty good trade setup for a long, guys. If you're looking for longs, this looks pretty decent to me. And then if you look at this, they're battling it out. This is the algos, like, see the wicks, boom, they're running, they're tricking people and chopping, you get the little chop up, it closes, boom, back up, boom, back up, boom, back up. So I think it's going to break out sooner than later, but there is no breakout. And then we have earnings coming up. So isn't that fun how they like to do that? They give you the setup, and the algos do it. I don't know who does it, the market makers, but you have a very clean bullish setup, and you have earnings coming up. They like force you to take a gamble, I guess. If I had to guess, it's gonna move. It's gonna gap up on earnings, only because of the setup that's here. One way to play it, because it does look like, when's earnings come out? Wednesday, so next week. So it's likely not going to break out before earnings. If it does, I'd be a little suspicious of that. What I'd prefer to see is this thing maybe even sell down a little bit before earnings, and then earnings comes out and it's going to gap, and then it would gap up. All right. So you could take what I would do, because this is interesting to me. I might even take a position in it long, but what I would do is, if they start to break it out before earnings, I'm not gonna take a trade on it. But let's say if they kind of keep it in the area, or maybe even pull back a little bit ahead of earnings, I might take a starter position long on it, and then and so a starter position for me, just so you guys are clear, is usually a pretty small position, maybe a 25% position. Let's say you want to buy 10 grand of a position, it would be like 2,500. So it's not, it's just kind of getting ready. You're looking to capture that initial move, but it's not, you don't have enough proof to be kind of all in long on a full size position. And it's not going to hurt you if you're wrong on that initial starter position. So that's what I'd be doing. And then I think it could gap up on earnings, and maybe you could add, depending on where it gaps to, could add. And I think this one could run, you're going to get a pullback at the 200, and you got some resistance, right? That former high right there. Oh, let me mark it out. Oh, man, right there. Okay. So there's your first level of resistance. It's about 1880, the 200's there. So, yeah. So I think you have a pretty quick move. If it's a perceived bullish on earnings, I think you have a pretty quick move to that resistance, pull back there. Okay. But then ultimately, I think you're going to continue higher up to that major trend line. So that's a good one. I'm going to add this to my longs. It is a good long setup. Nice find. Okay. How many, let's see here. We've been going for about a half hour. Let me just kind of see where we're at. Dell, Chewy, Ulta. Let me look at Ulta. I know that's been a kind of a hype stock in the past. Ooh, broke trend there. When I say things are sell the rip, here's the lesson on this one. Rally, rally, rally here on the daily chart. Gap down, which is a break of trend on earnings. All right, gap down, but they rallied up. That means sell the rip. Sell the rip into resistance. So when something's heading lower, it doesn't mean it's not going to have bounce days. It's going to fall what do they call it? It's going to fall the wall of worry, or no, fall the slope of hope. Slope of hope, that's what it is. So it's going to fall and then rally into resistance. And as when you're shorting, that gives you, it's the same as buying the dip at support. You sell the rip at resistance. So there it is. And then down it goes. Some bullish divergence now on the daily chart. See it right there. So this is not a short to me anymore. I wouldn't short this thing. Earnings coming out, bullish divergence. I wouldn't touch this ahead of earnings, to be honest. I would just let this thing, I'd wait for earnings, and then maybe you might miss it, but it is a bullish setup. You have a bullish falling wedge. All right, here's the thing. It's bullish, so if I had to guess, it's a long. You have a bullish falling wedge. You've got bullish divergence, but you got earnings, and it's really tough right before earnings because they could go like this. They could go boom, gap it down, and then the buyers are like just smash it and it rips up. So it is bullish to me, and I think you will get that buy signal, but there is no buy signal right now. So just maybe wait for the buy signal. Could take a starter short. Just be willing to, there could be that initial gap down post earnings that gets bought into. But I don't, who knows? Or it could just gap up. I don't know what's going to happen on earnings. I know it's a bullish setup. So I'd be looking for a long. I'd be looking for buy signals here. This is another good one. So let me add this to the long trade. Boom. Okay. Moving on. All right. KP Travel Journey, Vale. Let me take a look at that one. And then let me get to JD as well. Okay. We'll go to Vale. This is a ag play. Not really doing much, is it? It's still holding this kind of support level. You've got bullish divergence, still holding it. Can't really make a trend line there. Can't make one there. So that would be my trend line. Resistance, resistance, resistance. I mean, it's okay. It still looks like a long to me. It's not really taken off, but it doesn't look horrible. I don't see a sign. I wouldn't short this thing. If I had to take a position, I would want to go long. Support looks like about 12.24, and there's nothing to say they can't come down and do a back test. That's if you don't want to ride that out, just use that support level as your stop out area. If you start breaking below, you just stop out, let it run down, do the back test, and buy it down cheaper. But it still looks constructive to me, and we have a potential uptrend right there. So I'd watch that one. Let me kind of clean that up, and then let me go down to the hourly. So I would use that as my uptrend support. There's a little wick right there if you can't see it, but that's hitting that. I gotta adjust this just slightly. There, and then there's a wick, support, at support. I'd buy it. All right, and if it fails and breaks down, you could always stop out. But to me, that's at support with bullish divergence. That's where I'd want to buy it. Okay, so and I think you're gonna get that push up to the 200. I already got this one as a thing. I don't own it currently, but maybe I will next week. We'll see. All right, let me just skip through a couple of these. Just gotta kind of move around. Just trying to get to one per person. I already covered the semiconductors, so nothing there. Their momentum's still there on those. Apple, I covered Apple. Pfizer, let me look at Pfizer. Hit the 200 there, so that's always resistance. Yeah, this one did run, didn't it? I didn't get in it, but I did. I know I was pointing this one out earlier. This was a long trade for me, and you could see you have this downtrend line here. You have bullish divergence. This was your buy signal, or at least a buy signal, the initial breakout. Didn't quite run. They came down for a back test, but you can buy a breakout or you can buy a back test. Those are both objective times to be buying something for a long, if the long trade is there. The long trade was clearly here. And so you could buy here, you could buy here. That's another back test. You could buy there. As long as you're buying at the objective areas, then you keep your risk, relatively tight. If you're just buying whenever because you're emotional or you're chasing something or whatever, then your risk is more elevated. But if you're strategic about where you buy, you can really it can help keep you in a trade as well, because you have rules. Your trade is based on rules. I'm buying at support. If support breaks and it's no longer there, in a meaningful way, not just see they'll whip you a little bit here and there. Got to give it a little bit of wiggle room, because these algos will try to fake you out. But as long as you're buying, you're buying at support with a bullish setup, and everything looks okay, you stay in the trade until it works or until it doesn't. And in this instance, it really never did not work. It was working. I mean, yeah, if you bought right here on this initial breakout, you did have to, that was a 10% drop down to that back test. So one way to do it is don't just load the boat on the initial breakout. You could always take a half position and then if you do get a back test, add the other half position. That's money management. Or if you feel confident in the trade, you can take a full position on the breakout, and then as long as the technicals are still constructive, then you just hold out. And so boom, ran up to the 200. Now this one, I mean, I would still be bullish on this, to be honest. You're going to get that pullback at the 200, but I think it's a buy the dip stock, to be honest. Let's see if we can find some sort of so there's this potential uptrend right there. That's coming off of those lows, and you might be able to use that. I think you need another reaction point, but let's say you pull back, boom, hit it. You start to show that you're gonna get that reaction there. I'd be looking to be a buyer there and buy the dip. To me, let me make sure there's no divergences showing up. Yeah, nothing really on the daily. On the hourly, yeah, you got divergence on the hourly, and so that maybe gives you that little pullback, but that's just the hourly. I would be buying the dip on that one as of right now, until proven otherwise. All right, so that's that one. And then the other one, I know BMY was one I was pointing out at the same time, that Pfizer one. So here's BMY. This one didn't really work out. So obviously you did have a breakout, you did have the back test, but it failed. And clearly, I mean, this candle right here was a failure, but the next candle, that's a clear and obvious failure. So here, if you were still in it there, you got to stop out, at least from my perspective. There's just nothing there. You're closing at the lows of the candle. It's an impulsive sell-off candle. It's a clear rejection, and so you'd have to stop out there. There'd be no reason to stay long. And okay, so now we're down here. We don't really have bullish momentum. So I've got this trend line way down here. I'm looking for that, the tag of that. So it's got another little bit more to go to the downside, maybe another 5% or so. And then we'll be hitting that major support. I'll be looking, that could be a long down there. Okay. It's in a downtrend, so, but it's pretty murdered out. I mean, this thing, look at that. That's pretty washed out. So I'd be looking for maybe some bullish divergences starting to show up down near these supports for a bounce. If anything, just a bounce to the top of the channel. It's probably all I'd treat it as for right now. But you can trade these bounces. I mean, boom to there, that's 20% potentially. Okay, so 5% more downside, and then we'll look for a long there for maybe a bounce to the top of the channel. Okay, let's see here. We're lots of semiconductors. I've gone through those. I mean, Alphabet. kind of holding the top of this, which was resistance in the past, seems to be kind of treating it as support, chopping through it a little, but does seem to be treating it as support. You have negative divergence though. I think it's going to fail. You know, I think this is going to fail and we're going to come down. So I don't like it as a long. I don't like it as a short yet either. I need to see some, I don't know. This one, I need break this trend line again, I guess. You know, they broke it here. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not in love with this individual stock as a trade idea right now. I like triple Qs a lot better. It's just because you have that bearish engulfing. This is a bearish engulfing as well, right there. Like if you look at it, this candle engulfed the previous day's body. So this body engulfs the previous day's body. That is a bearish engulfing. You need to see confirmation, so more selling. Okay, JD, let me get to that one. Sorry about that. Chinese stocks. They've been tricky, but... So I would treat that as my uptrend. Okay, I'd buy the dip in this one. You've got a downtrend. It's kind of a wedge. Bullish divergence down here. Breakout. You didn't backtest, but you have this potential uptrend line. There's only 2 data points, though, so I need to see a third. So, you know, I think you're going to come down into some support. This could even go a little lower. Maybe it comes down to, like, here. Yeah, I like that. So I would, look. Oh. Resistance. There's a gap right there, so that's a reaction. Support. There's some reactions. That looks like pretty good support, right? About 28.80, 29-ish in the area. You don't have to wait for the penny, you know. Looks like pretty good support. And then you have this potential uptrend line. It's only potential because I only have 2 data points. But I do have that strong horizontal support. You got the 200-day just below. I'd say there's good... That's a zone of support to me. So I'd be looking to probably be a buyer down in that area. Look at the momentum. Strong bullish momentum. Okay. There's no divergence. This is not a divergent high. So you've got strong. This is just a correction in an uptrend. So I'd be buying the dip and I'd be buying it down in this, you know, in this area of support. Okay. I like that one as a long to buy the dip. I'm gonna do just a couple more, then I'll wrap up. I know I haven't done a live stream for a while, but I should be able to do them a little bit more regular, a little more frequently. So let me just kind of scan, see what we got. Snowflake. They just moved up on earnings, didn't they? Have a big move up? Oh, down. It was down. So here's your bullish divergence there. Divergent low, divergent low. Yeah, I don't know. In the short term, I don't know. It might come down and put in a new divergent low. I don't see a buy signal right now. I don't see anything to go off of that makes me want to just buy this thing. So it could come down, this potential trend line here. Maybe it's going to come put in a new divergent low. If it just drops like this, boom, it'll still be a divergent low, and that's where I'd want to maybe buy it down there. I bet that's, you got some support down there from the past, something like that. So that's what I see on that one. Maybe some more downside. And then we got okay, that's Snow. And then what's LW? Is this a REIT or what is it? Just a consumer non-durable? Okay. So there's a dividend tied to this or what? A small dividend. Okay, there's a weekly chart going back to 2016. That's the history. Ooh, that's a big down week, huh? So this is an uptrend that I saw from the past. You had a bearish rising wedge. You had negative divergence right here, all right? That built for a little while. The wedge, these are diverging, and it broke. And that was it. So I think this is in a downtrend. I mean, I'd go with like that. Okay, that gives me 3 data points. Resistance, looks like we had a little wick there, but resistance. Okay, big gap down, counter trend bounce. You're at the gap, so that gaps are gap entry, and gap fill is always key resistance. So you're at resistance now. There's obviously gap fill. Yeah, it's at resistance in a downtrend. I don't see any bullish divergence. You look at the daily, you've got a big move down in momentum, big move down in price, counter trend move up in price, counter trend move up in momentum, no divergence, downtrend. I don't know if it's going to come fill this gap. I don't know if it's going to hit this trend line. There's no way to know that. Right now it's at resistance and it's a downtrend, so it would, to me this is an objective area to short. And if they break above that resistance, then they probably go fill that gap. There's another resistance level up there. But it's at resistance now and it's in a downtrend, so I would say it's going to go lower. Okay, and then let's see here. Ron, I already covered Chewy for you, so I'll have to pass on the Snap one. And then all right, so we got Coin, Beam, and GameStop meme stuff. Let me check out Coin. This one can, we look for things that can move. Coin can move. Okay, so there's the uptrend there. We've got negative divergence, divergent high. Maybe just sitting there at my short-term support. I cannot tell in the short term what it's going to do. If because it kind of looks like it's going to go put in another divergent high, all right, and it kind of looks like that. I do think it's probably coming down to this major trend line right here. Got 3 data points. It's down below. We have that divergence, but see, here's the thing. This is a divergent high, and so is this, but there's just no real super strong sell signals. We had one right here. They hit support, bounced, divergent high, hit support again. Kind of chopping around. In the short term, I don't have a real clean picture. It can put in a new divergent high. It could break support. Maybe you look for you probably have to narrow it down to the hourly chart. it, could continue to diverge. I think it's going to put in another divergent high from what I can see right now. And you actually didn't really have negative divergence on the PPO right here. So you had it on the RSI, but not on the PPO. So if it runs in and puts in a new divergent high, you're going to have negative divergence on the PPO and the RSI at that point. So I guess that's the way I'd be leaning. All right, one more, last one. Well, we can look at GameStop. I don't typically trade these. Usually by the time these things have run, like you hear about them, the move's over, or maybe you're on the tail end. So they're pretty high risk if you hear about it in the media because you're on the tail end of the momentum. But so I had resistance. Oh, right. Oh, what is this thing doing? Right there. Yeah. Right there. So I think it ran into that resistance level and then, got rejected. Really, anybody that's asking me about this is probably trapped, I would assume. Because, I didn't hear anything about this from anyone, down here wanting to buy it. Now I hear about it. So they probably bought into it on this pump and they've been trapped. You're probably trapped in whatever losses that, if that's the case, right? If you chased it, major news on Friday and moved to 22. Is that what it did in the after hours? Well, there's a gap. 22. What's 22? Well, there's a gap there. I mean, this thing can just run. There's a gap. This is going to be gambling money because it's going to be based on after hours news things happening, or one dude decides to throw a meme comment out or something. So I wouldn't put my money here just waiting for some guy to post something. But if you want to gamble, the technicals, there's no technicals to really go off. I mean, there's a downtrend line right here. Okay. So that is maybe support. It has broken that. Look, this was the downtrend. See it? Lots of reactions there on the daily. So technically, this is your downtrend. And I could tighten. No, I think it's about, I think it's about right in there. So that's your downtrend line. And so I'd maybe want to buy it at support. Okay, I could justify that, buying it there at support. But that's it. I'd only want to buy it at support. You got earnings coming out. So if you could buy it here and it's right ahead of earnings and you want to take a shot, a gamble, again, I'd keep a pretty small position, but you could see a big pop up post earnings. I'd probably sell into that if I were you, or, if I gambled buying at support right ahead of earnings and you get a big post earnings gap up, I'd probably sell into that strength. But that this person says they bought at 1775. So you bought, I guess you were looking at this downtrend then, right? I mean, you saw this as a breakout and you bought on the breakout, which is the technically right way to do it. I mean, that is the right way to do it. So that was the early money. They saw the technical breakout. And that dude, he's looking at the technicals too. He looked at the charts. He knew it was ripe because the technicals had just broken out. So it was ripe to pump it. He put out his little thing, pumped it, sold into it. It's kind of a pump and dump, really. I don't know how that guy can really get away with that, but he does. And hit resistance and, you could buy for maybe another push up, but I don't know I don't think it's going to get back up to here. I think you probably would maybe get some sort of a big post earnings gap up. You could maybe hit this gap right here. It could be like a gain, like a gap to there, still would be a sizable move, but I would, that's it. That's really all I got, guys. So everyone have a great weekend. No markets not open on Monday, so we'll be back on Tuesday. Enjoy your time. I'll catch you guys later. Thanks. Bye.